this moment to my powerlessness and to thy might, to my poverty and to thy love. There is none other God but thee, the help in peril, the self-sustaining. I say that prayer as the beginning today as a Baha'i obligatory prayer. So I'm sure anybody here never heard of the Baha'i faith before? Oh, we got some people. Okay, great. So welcome to one of the fun parts of Gathering of Light, that we get to let you know about all these wonderful things that are going on in the world. And as I said before, today is Celebration of the Bab, who was the proclaimer of Bahá'u'lláh. And Bahá'u'lláh really means the glory of God. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about Baha'i first before I go on to anything else. But Bahá'u'lláh was born in 1817. So back in what was then called Persia, which is now Iran. So you have this guy who's born to a pretty wealthy family. Sounds a little bit like Siddhartha here, right? Gautama, the Buddha. He has this wealthy family. He's got this, got everything going for him. We got everything we want. And I think, it's no coincidence that this keeps coming up for us. This idea of we think we have everything we want. We think we have everything we need, right? But there's always that yearning for something more. It's never enough. It's never enough. Look at this, well, that's not good enough. I tried that, that's not good enough. It's always that outside. What is it? What's going to fill me? That reaching and wanting for that. So Bahá'u'lláh is one of those people that was born during that time. And he came around, and while he was growing up, there was this fellow ahead of him, which was the Bab, who was proclaiming all these things different to what was going on at the time. And he was saying, God's going to come. There's going to be a manifestation of the divine in our time, and it's going to show up here. And, everybody loves that thing. They go, yeah, sure, We have one of these songs that we sing as, What If God Was One of Us? The pop song that was, yeah. What if the manifestation of the divine is really sitting right next to you? How are we treating that person? How are we coming? What if we're it? What if we're it and it hasn't even been bestowed on us? How are we treating this divinity? What are we doing to it? So Bahá'u'lláh was and he had all these things in life and all this good stuff, but what he started to say, got to be more than this, and he started to really devote himself to this idea of God being so amazing. Like he just put down everything else. All the bad stuff going on in the world, all the other stuff happening. He just said, I'm just going to devote myself to focusing on being one with this divinity. One with this divinity. And that idea for all of us. We don't talk about this. Oh, I wonder this oneness. Oh, how great. We're all united in unity. And God is one. If God is one, why is God one and we're over here? That's two people. Not one. So we have this separateness always going on inside ourselves, pulling away from this. And Bahá'u'lláh was into that. He said, I'm just gonna keep praising God. And he followed the Bab for a while, and because of that, he was persecuted. The Bab was then executed, and Bahá'u'lláh found himself in the black pit. Is this pit, this dungeon? Okay, now we're talking 1840s. So what's going on around here? What was it? Just before the Civil War going on here. So you're thinking over there, a dungeon, black pit, not too nice, right? He's in there, and what is he doing while he's in there? God's great. God's great. God's got this covered. No problem on here. Shackles, chains on him, all his horrific conditions, just in a pit, literally left in a pit. Lucky some sort of nutrients were thrown down there, some sort of liquid. And he never swayed from his conviction of that something else. No matter what, that's something else. It really transformed a lot of the guards. A lot of the times when he was in prison, a lot of the guards kept saying, like, I don't get this guy. I don't get this guy. Like, where does he, how does he do it? How does he, with all this is horrific, horrendous, keep this faith? Have this immense amount of just wanting to praise and glorify God. I think that the term justified anger comes up for a lot of us. I mean, well, he's talking about justice for everybody. Well, you know, I'm not the only one in this pit. There's other people in this pit. And, you know, what's going on here? So it was always this idea of never only about himself. Always this way of reaching out beyond himself. And so he got out of prison, but he was exiled, and he's like wandering around, and he has his family, and he has kids, and he's trying to, you know, just live his life, but he's trying to really understand God more, and he actually goes off into the mountains for 2 years. So it's like, you know, the stories of Jesus going off, or Moses going off, or, you know, all the different prophets going off and having this time where they just took the time to just really make that connection. And he came back from that really assured, and he started to proclaim these things that are held now within the Baha'i faith. And he said that really what we have to do is we have to come together as a global now community. Mankind, humankind, has to come together in some kind of oneness, because we're all in this together. And from our readings that we had in our words of wisdom, he's talking about, and he brought up this idea of progressive revelation, in which he said, you know, all these prophets have come along. And he went back. Zoroastrian, he went back to, he was going back into Krishna, he says, yeah, they're all valid. They're all the manifestations of the divine. That each time, at each period, we all come to a place where we need help. We need a kickstart. We need a reminder that tells us of that something more, and not to put ourselves in the pit. See, somebody can put us physically in the pit, but only we can put ourselves mentally and spiritually in the pit. Nobody else can do that. And so he was saying that we have to come together and recognize that we've been prodded, and we've been poked, and we've been encouraged along by the divine even becoming manifest in this planet, walking on this earth, and saying these things to us, and trying to help us, and that each one is valid, and that each one comes along at a certain time, in a certain culture, in a certain environment where it's needed, in a different language, so that the people that are there can kind of get this understanding and move along all of humanity to this higher understanding of this greater cause. And so he talked about building a peaceful global society. And with that, he said that what we have to do is we have to abandon all forms of prejudice. Everybody is equal. And at the time, he was promoting the equality of women in a way that was unheard of. I mean, it's still pretty much unheard of in parts of Iran and that part of the world, the equality of women. And here he is, now in this time, saying, no, it's all of this together. And each one of us needs to be treated with that respect and that dignity. And again, it's not about outward differences. And he talked about this unity and all the religious truths and how they are truthful. And he wanted to eliminate, you know, this extremes in life. It's not going to get us anywhere. The extreme wealth and the extreme poverty. That's hard. Because a lot of us are so tempted by that extreme wealth. You know, even today in our day, as long as it's there and somebody's got it and it's attainable, it's okay. People look to that and say, wow, maybe I can get that one day, so that's okay. It's not okay. imbalances. It puts us in such a place of imbalance again, as a species, as a global community. And that if we're to be unified, that we need to find some sort of balance in all of this. Again, I'm telling you, this is in the 1860s. 1860s, saying these things. He was very big on that everybody needed to be educated. Everybody. At that time, people weren't able to have education. And he said that it was the responsibility of each person to independently search for truth within themselves. You know, to this day in the Baha'i faith, the children are not called, you don't call your children Baha'is. They get away till they get to an age where they decide that's right for them. That's respect. From an ultimate age. And that is love. There's no fear in that. You're telling a little child, you're this, you're that, you're this, because I want you to be like me. Why? Because I'm afraid you'll not want to be around me or be different. Why don't you just be who you are and love that? You see that unity that we can even have in the family and how we don't even allow that even in families. And here he is back there saying that we need to have that. He wanted a global commonwealth of all nations. And he also recognized that true religion is in harmony with reason and the pursuit of scientific knowledge. Well, you can imagine how, during that time, people did not like his ideas. And so he went from exile to exile, sometimes being imprisoned over and over again, till, like I said, until it was the guards that said, "This is a nice guy. You know, we like him." And they felt good around him. And then let him out. Or they put him in nicer places until finally they convinced the upper, who had the rules, who were making the rules, to let him go. But, you know, he suffered a lot and went through a lot. And a lot of times, too, the people didn't understand him. So he went from times of being paraded into a city to be imprisoned, where people are throwing rocks at him and things at him, to being praised another time, going into the prison, to the ups and downs and all of these situations and circumstances. And all he kept doing was going back to spiritual principles. Going back to that relationship with the divine that he developed within himself. And what happened ultimately was one day, is that in 1863, he told everybody, he said, "You remember that was saying that the manifestation of God is here and now?" He said, "I'm it. It's me." What about that? What about if you woke up one morning and said, "You know that manifestation of God is me." And you meant it, and you proclaimed it, and you lived it, and you acted like it. And you took care of yourself in a way that was worthy of the divine. And you spoke to yourself in a way that was worthy of the divine. And you reached out and saw each other as if it was worthy of coming from the divine. What a way this world would change. So he changed many in this world. Today, the Baha'is are millions of people. They're all over the world. They have beautiful temples set up around the world. Let's see, our little banner over there, all the way to your right, on the corner, that star, the nine-pointed star, that's the Baha'is. So we usually have some Baha'is, but sorry they couldn't make it here today. Last year, it was a young man, Alex, he was terrific, with his sister, and they were going, Lily, and they were going to go in the back. She was going to go in the back and teach the kids, but unfortunately, SATs got in the way. They're amazing people, and their religion was responsible for really promoting the establishment of the United Nations, because it's in their ideals, right, a global nation. And now, as we come closer to a place of internet and, you know, and all this access that we have around the world in ways that we can be at our fingertips, a global community, what are our ideas of unity and oneness? in another part of the world. You think about that. How much destruction can come from just the destruction we do on ourselves? We look out into the world and say, oh, I don't know how this is happening. We can change it. We really can change it. If we can really just change that relationship that we have with ourselves, with the divine, and the very next person